Hi there, this is a quick video explanation about the Oregon Trail and other trails west. So as you can see in this map, in the early 1800s to mid 1800s, there were several different trails and destinations where pioneers were trying to head as they made their way from Independence, Missouri in particular, out to Oregon or California, or as we'll see, the Utah Territory. So a few facts about the Oregon Trail in particular. The starting place, which is known as the jumping off point, was at Independence, Missouri. So pioneers would have to make their way across the United States from wherever they were, whether that's New York or Georgia or Mississippi or Virginia, and they would get to Independence, Missouri, where they would meet up. They would oftentimes find a guide, and they would gather the supplies that they would need to make this journey, which was over 2,000 miles long. The first two individuals who made this trip were Marcus and Narcissa Whitman. They were two missionaries who originally went out to the Oregon Territory hoping to convert the native tribes who were there. And when they came back, they had these reports of unbelievable riches, and the land was beautiful and abundant and fantastic for farming. And so these stories inspired thousands of others to make that trip as well. So after their first trip in 1836, it only took a few years for the snowball to start rolling, so to speak. So by 1843, over 1,000 pioneers had made this voyage. And by 1869, which is the year that the Transcontinental Railroad was completed, as we will see, over 400,000 people had traveled along the Oregon Trail. They oftentimes moved in wagon trains, kind of like you can see in these images here, for safety. And the conditions themselves were pretty rough. So the wagons would be used to carry the materials, and the pioneers would have to walk. So their wagons were pretty rickety and oftentimes would break down. They faced harsh weather conditions. Oftentimes the native tribes in the area weren't exactly happy to have pioneers by the thousands marching across their lands. And so the experience was far from an easy one, and many lost their lives trying to get to Oregon and California, hoping for a better life. This map again shows the jumping off point as well as the most famous paths that pioneers took as they were headed out west. But now let's shift our focus to one particular group that made their voyage out to the west, which is the Mormons. So the Mormons were and still are, a religious group originally founded by Joseph Smith in 1830. So he's pictured here. After he believed he had received messages and new prophecies from God. So he gathered a lot of followers originally in New York, but they were frequently persecuted and they were continually pushed further and further west. So they tried to find safety in Ohio and then in Illinois. But things were becoming very difficult for the Mormons to practice their faith in safety, especially after Joseph Smith was killed. And so Brigham Young, who was the Mormon leader after Joseph Smith, gathered up the Mormon believers and moved them out to Utah. In 1847, that was part of Mexico. So he was moving them out of the United States where they could worship freely. And when they arrived at what's known as the Great Salt Lake in Utah, they decided to build their settlement there, which is why to this day, the state of Utah is the largest Mormon population anywhere in the world. So this map here shows the paths that the Mormons followed as they headed from New York, where they originated, all the way out to Salt Lake City, which again at the time was a part of Mexico, hoping to have religious freedom. So I hope this video helps you understand some facts about the Oregon Trail and why groups like the Mormons in particular headed west in the early to mid 1800s. Thanks for watching.